If I may call our meeting to order. Good grief, I apologize for the delay. What did I have? Did I have something I needed to?
I gave it to Tim.
Oh, go ahead, sir.
Well, of course, if you want to do the pledge and all that.
Yeah, we'll skip that. That seems to be not welcome in the.
So,
I welcome it.
All right, then we'll stand and do the Pledge of Allegiance. There we go. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
See, I knew. Just change the agenda.
Anything else wrong? Sir?
Borough Council had an executive session from 6:30 to 7 o'clock on the following two matters. 2023 union negotiations for AFSCME Blue under Section 708A2, and reviewing matters of agency business, which, if conducted in public, would violate lawful privilege, involving a potential code enforcement action under 708A4 and 5.
Okay. Any comments on that? Okay. Do we have any public comment for the beginning of the meeting? Please, state your name, address.
Good evening, Art Becker, 529 Carlisle Street. Again, as you know, I represent numerous property owners.
Could you share with us who you represent?
No, I'm not
All right.
in a position to do that. I do represent numerous property owners in the borough, both landlords and tenants, and we're back tonight for two reasons. One, to once again object to council adopting the IPMC in its entirety, and second, to discuss the structure of the landlord-tenant workshop. This is listed, as council knows, under 8A of the agenda as the rental registration and inspection workshop. And since council had no interest in adopting the rental registration and inspection ordinance, the last time we were here, you might recall that there was no one that would second the motion. I would ask that the workshop be named the IPMC and the property owner workshop. It's a little more inclusive, and I think it's a little less divisive. And what I'd like to do at this point is make some suggestions as to the purpose of the workshop. First, whether to repeal some or all of the IPMC. I don't believe that council members who voted to adopt the IPMC realized that this gave the borough the right to inspect everyone's homes for code violations, not just landlords' properties, not just tenants' residents, everyone's. Every single person that lives in the borough right now can have their property inspected pursuant to the IPMC. There is a provision that allows for that. I've cited that in the materials that I provided to council. I know council knows this now, but I don't think that's what most council members wanted when they voted to adopt the IPMC. And for those council members who do want to have this provision kept in the IPMC, I have clients that are willing to pay IPMC code inspectors to go into your houses and perform an inspection, look for code violations, look for fire safety violations, look for electrical violations, HVAC violations, prepare a report, and bring it back to the next council meeting to review it. I would like to know if I have any volunteers. If I don't, I think that the council then shares my same concerns that I don't think we need the entire IPMC. There are parts of it that are already part of the ordinance. There are parts of it that can serve our purpose as well and should be included and maintained, but there is at least the one provision that requires the mandatory the inspection of all residences. We would like for that to be removed. The second purpose of the workshop is to put together a group of landlords and tenants, and I would submit council members, and I would ask that Councilperson Rupp and Councilperson Higbird be included in this workshop because they were supporting this ordinance, and Chris Miller. the Borough Codes Enforcement Officer. Why? Because I think he can explain better than anyone the process that is currently in place by which he inspects residential rental properties. He could also talk about the fact that anyone can report a code violation. Any landlord, any tenant, any neighbor, they can do it anonymously, online, by phone, in person. These are the things that he told me the last time I spoke with him about that. Mr. Miller did confirm that if there is a life safety issue, for example, a non-working smoke detector or a question of whether one should be there, they're investigated within 24 hours. All other code violations are investigated within 48 hours. So if there is a code violation, he gives the property owner a reasonable time to correct the problem. If the property owner does not correct the problem, he issues a non-traffic citation. So there already is a process in place to address noncompliance. I'm not sure that everyone either knows that or knows what that process is. And I think that would be helpful for everyone to participate in understanding that and hearing it directly from Chris Miller. So I think it's important for the council members who are advocating for a new ordinance to first understand what ordinance we have in place and how it works. Because I think Mr. Miller's doing a great job. I think that code complaints are being addressed, but, you know, he might say he needs more resources. He might say he needs more staff. He might suggest we tweak the ordinance in some fashion. So I think we should hear from him. And I think the last thing this workshop should address is no matter what ordinance you have in place, and I would submit this based upon what I've heard in the exchanges that we've had with council members that were willing to talk to us, so I appreciate that. I don't think the borough can regulate the cosmetic appearance of the exterior of residential rental properties, which I think is the main reason why people are saying, I don't want to drive around the borough and watch this town look more run down because landlords or people are not taking care of their properties. I don't think an ordinance is going to do it. But I think there are some things that the borough can do to address some of these aesthetic concerns. I think that the borough, for example, this workshop could talk about the borough could buy rundown buildings, tear them down, sell the building lots, put building restrictions and covenants in place so that the new buildings that are built have an aesthetic appeal. I think that the borough can give landlords tax breaks if they improve the outside of their buildings. And right now, if a landlord improves the outside of their building, I don't think the tenants are going to want to pay more rent. I'm not sure they're even going to be able to get more rent, but it'll cause their property taxes to increase. So it's a disincentive to improve the properties. The borough could partner with an underwriter, much like I think it was some Chamber of Commerce committees that were involved in this, coordinating loans to landlords to improve the outside of their buildings, give them low interest or no interest loans. They would have to pay it back. But I think downtown Hanover did a nice job. I think there was a number of opportunities there that people took advantage of. I'd like to talk more about that. I'd like to know, you know, if that was successful. I'd like to know if those are the types of things that would satisfy the concerns, not just of the council members that have said, hey, I don't want to live in a town where the buildings start to look run down, but everybody's concerns. So if we could just put away our differences on some of these issues and work together, what I think I heard people in attendance at the last meeting say is that's really what I think they want us to do. There are ways that we can do things to improve the quality of tenant housing, which makes the borough a better place for everyone to live. Thank you.
Any other public comment?
Hey, Scott, this is Chris. I just want to make sure I'm on.
Yes, sir, you are.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, if there's no more public comment, then I'd like to go to the consent agenda. I'd like a motion to approve that.
So motion.
So moved, Counselor Lockford.
And a second?
I'll second.
Okay, any questions or commentary? Okay, if so, we'll move forward and all that approved. The next is the interviews for the expiring terms. I'm sorry? Oh, geez, God. Pardon me, Barb. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Excuse me, we have to interview these people for the zoning board.
Okay, well, we were voting on the the consent agenda. I got half a step ahead of myself, thank you.
Oh, okay, I thought
Okay, so the next is, motion carries. The next are the interviews or discussions for the expiring terms and recommendations on the committee people for zoning hearings, shade tree, property maintenance, stormwater, and fire and rescue. How do we want to proceed with that?
we should interview the people that are here for the zoning hearing board because there are several people interested in that position. That would be Spencer Shirk, Matthew Funk, Isaac Riston, and Jim Zartman. Jim Zartman is the incumbent. The other positions are unopposed. So if council so wishes, they could just reappoint for those other positions. But we would like to interview the people for the zoning board and then have you vote on who you would like to appoint. And I supplied everybody with a list of questions with their agenda.
If I may make a comment before we
Please do.
interview people, we do have a policy on appointments and reappointments to public bodies that we already have approved. And I would just remind people that our statement of values regarding the appointment process is that we are looking for opportunities for residents to serve the community who have not served before. We're looking for diverse membership by balancing members' location of residency, age, sex, ethnicity, and race, and providing for a balance of new and experienced members on each board, and providing each board and commission with members who have related professional experience and knowledge. So we approved that through our governing committee last year, and I just want to remind people that that's what we should be thinking about when we interview these people, looking for new people who have not served before, people that are already interested in being on some of our commissions. Thank you.
Okay, so I guess my question would be is, we have a list here of X people. Are you proposing that we go through some sort of exercise to expand the list?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying, we're looking for 2 out of 4 people, so I think we have to think about those things when we are making our decision. That's all I suggest. That's all.
Okay. And so, what's the process? How do we move forward with that?
I would call each person forward and have council ask a few questions.
And we do that this evening's thing?
Right
Okay.
now.
Our, starting with the zoning hearing board, I guess the 4 candidates are here, okay? So we'd like to ask them to come forward and share their.
One at a time.
Excuse me?
We do one at a time.
Yeah, correct. So we'd start in the order that they're on the agenda with Mr. Spencer Shirk.
Hi, I'm Spencer, 906 Sherwood Street.
You've been the alternate, right?
Yes, I have been the alternate for, I believe, my term was for 3 years. In that time, I've only attended 2 zoning board meetings, which I was required for.
Thanks for 2.
Mm-hmm.
We start asking those questions.
Okay, how do we want to handle the questions? We probably should have practiced
Somebody
this
just
in
has to
advance.
start. Yeah, just start.
All right,
Somebody just has to start.
all right. Sue Ann, please, or,
Carol.
Carol, I'm sorry.
Hi, Spencer.
Hello.
Looks like the first question would be a logical one. Are you available on the 3rd Monday of each month at 6 PM for meetings?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that was an easy one.
I know. Because I went first.
For everyone else, there can. So you
Okay.
got it. You're getting the test.
Gary?
Hey, Spence. What is your understanding of the role of the zoning hearing board? And why are you interested in serving on the zoning hearing board?
I'm interested because I would like to generally just help serve the community. As a Eagle Scout and just an interested member of the community, I think it's in everyone's interest to just be mindful of the future of this town. So as part of that, I would like to be a part of it. Could you reiterate the first part of that question, please?
What is your understanding of the role of the ZHB?
The role of the zoning board is to moderate and interpret some of the, or the ordinances, as far as making sure that people that wish to open businesses reallocate their properties and whatnot, just to make sure it's within code, that it's acceptable. And it's not to necessarily deny future business growth, it's just to make sure that everything is acceptable. If people haven't done their homework, then they won't get through. If they have and everything's in order, by all means.
Pardon me?
In the past, we've had the other candidates.
Well, that is true. We've had the others.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
Do we want to,
Yes,
do we want to do that?
yes.
Okay, well, then I guess we would ask the other candidates that are here for these positions, if you wouldn't mind taking up residence in the cafeteria during this, so you don't necessarily have the advantage of hearing your competitors' answers to the questions. I think that's a good answer, or a good idea. Sorry, Bill?
I said, try and forget what you just heard. when you
Right,
were out.
you know,
I think you can figure out what they are.
don't want to use all the good words or the big words over again.
You should be fine.
You should, right.
Okay, continue on, I'm sorry.
I believe.
He answered that one.
That was good.
You good?
The next one, describe your ability and/or experiences rendering a decision where you disagree with a rule, regulation, or had a strong support from others asking you to disregard the rules and vote with the crowd majority. Sweet.
That was
Could you reiterate that, please?
There's a lot of questions.
Yeah.
So describe, yeah, you can you get a copy?
Maybe
Can he have a copy to look at?
You can have my copy.
Right.
Thank you.
So the question was,
Yeah, look, it's a long question, he's trying to, and it's just letting him look at this.
We'll let you read it.
right. You'll get it when you read it.
Are we going to give him a copy?
Well, you know the answers then.
Number 3.
Number 3.
Describe your ability and/or experiences rendering a decision where you disagree with a rule, regulation, or had a strong support from others asking you to disregard the rule and vote with the crowd majority.
That's a good brutal question.
Right.
Brutal question.
So the place of this legislative body is to put forth ordinances, correct?
No.
And
It's not. It is to enforce.
it is to enforce
It is to
that.
interpret as per the rules. The role of this body is to, when necessary, to add what you just said. If there's need for something, this body creates it. So I think the crux of the question for me is your responsibility will not be to reinvent the wheel. How will you enforce what's currently there?
So it's-
when you might have a personal opinion which is in disagreement with what the rule actually says? Will you enforce the rule, or will you do something to the contrary?
I see no reason not to enforce the rule.
Okay, that's the reason why the
It's a
question.
it's a good interpretation, Bill, thank you.
Yeah.
Yes. All right. Mr. Kress?
I don't have a sheet to read.
Oh,
4.
Spencer, tell us about an experience you have had collaborating and/or working with a group.
So just to give you a quick rundown, I was in the Boy Scouts, Troop 118. I attained the rank of Eagle Scout. And I have also worked, or I was a member of the Southwestern High School Marching Band for 4 years, and then went on to 5 years at the Shippensburg University Marching Band. I'm familiar with working within hierarchies as a group to achieve a goal that would not be attainable if you did not work as a group.
It's good.
okay. Thank you.
Number 5, what else would you like us to know about you that makes you a strong candidate for the zoning hearing board?
I would like to see the community improve, develop, and become stronger. There have been many changes that I have seen, even in just my short tenure in living in town and living around town, that I think are in the right direction. I would like to assist and help along any efforts to continue that.
Thank you.
All right.
Who's getting Mr. Funk?
Next is Mr.
Does
Funk.
anybody have anything
And will any
else?
other further questions for Mr. Shirk?
I'll get Mr. Funk.
Oh,
I think
thank you,
that
Bill.
concludes your interview.
Okay. Was there anything you wanted me to clarify?
Or would you like to tell us anything?
I think I'm good.
What is your background? What do you do for?
I've worked 10 years for a HVAC and plumbing contractor in Hunt Valley.
Okay.
Before that, I worked for Southwestern School District as seasonal help.
Okay, thank you very much.
Mhm.
Okay.
Thank you for your interest
Thank you.
and concern for the community. Okay. Mr. Funk,
Hello, good evening.
good evening. Would you introduce yourself to us? And then do you have the sheet with the 5 questions on
I
it?
do not have that sheet. Oh, here it is, yes, I have a
Okay.
copy.
There you go. You may have that, you have the right one. You have the one with the answers on the first page.
No.
Okay.
Thank you. All right, so my name's Matthew Funk, and I'm from 108 Coon Drive, just next to the Utz factory. And I'm well, not recently, but I'm a retired federal worker. And I came to Hanover because my family's from Pennsylvania, the old Mennonite stuff, so I came back here to retire and also take advantage of the fact that my pension does not get taxed up here.
Good old
So-
Pennsylvania, right?
Yeah, good old Pennsylvania. And so I'm here to answer your questions.
About how long have you lived here now?
2 years now.
Okay. You have the sheet of the questions, so I guess it starts with, are you available the third Monday of each month at 6 PM
Yes.
for the meetings?
I am available at that time.
Okay.
All right.
Sue?
What is your understanding of the role of the zoning hearing board? And why are you interested in serving on the zoning board?
I honestly don't have a very good understanding, I mean, not a detailed understanding. I understand it's a public service and it's a way to help us keep the public informed about our zoning laws and to help interpret zoning for people who have questions they want to bring before the board. And I'm interested in doing it because I've always been involved in the communities I've lived in. sort of a family tradition. And I think I could help bring insight, given my experiences over the years, but I honestly have no experience interpreting zoning laws. But I've interpreted many other things, so.
Fair enough answer.
Mr. Chairman, can I ask
Go right
question
ahead.
3?
Yes.
I have a little passion with that one, as you could tell, the last candidate. So in your particular role, having led a life in government service, it sounds like, if you are brought into this position, you might be in a compromised spot where your responsibility would be to enforce the laws, the rules, the ordinances, the legal portion of it, but you may have a personal opinion that might be different than that. Would you be conflicted enforcing the rules if you had a personal opinion that might be opposed to that enforcement?
My understanding is that a board member is there to enforce whatever the ordinances are.
Okay.
And if it's fairly interpreted, and it doesn't match my opinion, well, my opinion gets nixed.
That's the answer to the question. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Could you tell us, question
Barb?
number 4, just give us tell us some experience you may have had collaborating and working in a group?
Yeah. So I worked in Capitol Hill for 27 years.
That's probably all you have to say.
Yeah, that's it. It was all about collaboration and working together.
It wasn't all right, was it?
No, actually, it's not. Well, I started in the 80s, and it's not quite as uncivil as it is right now, but.
Thank you.
How are you able to bring people together to gain consensus? Because that's one of our
Engender,
group opportunities, I think.
right, engender mutual respect, give mutual respect, listen to everybody. Try to keep your opinions in check, and find the common goal and try to get everybody steered towards the same thing. Yeah.
Okay. Item 5, Chuck, you want to take that?
What else would you like to share? What else would you like us to know about you that makes you a strong candidate for the zoning hearing board?
Well, I moved here to Hanover about 2 years ago, and I bought a house that was, had some issues, that the water was flooding and into my basement, and I noticed that the roads in Hanover were not quite as well-maintained as where I had come from. And so I started engaging with Hanover, and frankly, I was just quite pleased with the response I got from the city, or the borough, about that. So this would be a great borough to work with and be a part of, as part of the community. And now I work for Utz in their corporate office part-time, and so, well, I'll be here for a while, so I might as well get engaged. Yeah.
Okay.
Is there
Any
anything
other-
else you want us to know, or?
No, I appreciate the opportunity to come up here and present myself as an inexperienced zoner who has a lot of experience in public forums and would like to help. Okay?
Very good.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much for coming out and for your interest in caring for our collective community.
Thank you.
All right. Bill's getting Mr. Riston, I guess.
So Tom, so I'm clear, James Zartman is already on the zoning hearing board?
Yes.
Correct.
His term is just up.
Yes.
Isaac brought these, I said he can start answering questions, I'll hand them out.
Okay, would you please introduce yourself?
Of course. Hi, everyone. My name is Isaac Riston. I live on 227 Locust Street here in Hanover.
Tim, you want to start? Oh, we don't. Chuck, would you share your paper?
All right, question number one. Are you available on the third Monday of each month at 6 PM for meetings?
Absolutely.
Outstanding.
We always give Tim the tough questions, right? Okay, next.
What is your understanding of the role of the zoning hearing board, and why are you interested in serving on the zoning hearing board?
Well, I can tell you the zoning hearing board is to hear special exceptions and variances, as well as make conditions when special exceptions are heard. So, for example, we have special exceptions in our zoning ordinance to say if they want to build in one of our zoning, on our zoning map where they want to build, what requirements they have to meet. Now, I should also point out, I imagine people on the borough know this, but there is a typo, a clerical error happened in our zoning ordinance and special exceptions for the medical marijuana dispensary and growing facility. It actually states that you have to submit your application to the township. Since we are a borough, that causes some error there. So if we were to hear a special exception, that won't really go too well. And then, unfortunately, in the 30 pages of definitions, township is not one of the words defined. So that's something to be noted of. So you're asking why am I interested? It's because it's about serving people and serving our community. As a young person who's interested in local government from an early age, being a junior council person for Mill Creek Township, I've served on zoning, school board, you name it, for a voice without vote. And from there, I understand the importance of what you are all doing and what you're sacrificing. This is a non-paid position. You're scrutinized quite a bit. And so understanding that from that point of view, I see it. That's why when I worked as a student for Susquehanna University, working with their borough manager to establish a junior council person program for Susquehanna University, and working with them to establish their borough, the comprehensive plan, looking at zoning and code enforcement and everything else, I grew a fond understanding that good governments and good policy can allow for successful living and make your small community. Selinsgrove is quite small compared to Hanover, but everyone's trying to grow and sustain and become better. So those are why my understanding of the role is and why I'm interested.
Isaac, the 10 seats up here for council have duplicitous roles, one of which is creating, say, the legislation analogous to those forms of state and federal government that we have. Your role as zoning hearing board would be enforcing what's already there, not a lot of opportunity to add your flavor, your take. So the direct question is, and what we'd like you to comment upon, in a situation where you might be personally in opposition to that which you are appointed to enforce, is that a problem, or can you, okay.
No, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but it's really, you've laid it out for me, right? The special exceptions are here, the requirements are already laid out for me. The times where that I might have, say, any leeway whatsoever is more of those fuzzy words, where you have more like, I get a little bit more say in those words, but like, for the most part, those don't exist, thankfully. Now there are some situations where that is there, and of course there are conditional applications where certain instances like that, and variances, of course, so long as the 5 hardships are met, you can make a lot of comments in that regard. But it doesn't matter what I think about it. It matters did they meet the requirements, and did they meet them to the fullest extent, and do they follow the ordinances that you, as the legislative body here in Hanover, set out? And if they meet those, then they meet those. If they don't, then they don't.
Good, thank you.
Could you share with us an experience you've had collaborating and or working with a group of people? Like only one, probably a lot, just one.
I know, I kind of already said that, so we could move on, but I'll talk about how I worked in the Environmental Resource Energy Group in Harrisburg in 2017 on the severance tax, which you might be wondering, Isaac, that sounds like a mouthful. It was. I was working with the ERE and, of course, the tax group in Harrisburg on that legislation because there's over 400 amendments, some of which were focused on environment, others were focused on tax, others were gutting the entire legislation and putting other stuff in there. In a week, we had to make briefs on all those amendments and submit them. And so what that means is you have an amendment of over 100 pages that needs to be analyzed and made down to a quick paragraph sentence for a representative to read through so they can understand what's going on. So that's what we're having to do, working together, because we're different groups and different thoughts. And of course, you have other people that are not in government, non-bureaucracy, that want to have a say as well. So, yeah, so I have to think of all those.
That was a big one.
Yeah,
Yeah, thank you.
no problem.
Okay. Item 5.
What else would you like us to know about you that makes you a strong candidate for the zoning hearing board?
As a Eagle Scout myself, as a renter here in Hanover, as a person living in a very R5 location where we have lots of people living on Locust Street with heavy parking, I think it's important to have a point of view that is coming from a different perspective. Now, I can definitely tell you that I've dealt with, government legislation and understanding and text, and you can tell I came prepared, having the entire zoning ordinance and Saldo in front of me, reading it front to back. I can tell the Saldo is not as fun as the zoning ordinance, but it's important, you have to read these over and understand them, because if I don't understand the special exceptions beforehand and just kind of wing it, it's not going to go well. For me, I am committed to this community. I chose Hanover. I wasn't born in Hanover. And so, as a taxpayer, I want to see it flourish like everyone up here on the council. And I'm looking to do whatever I can as part of that. That's why I joined the Christmas committee. I'm helping out with that, helping decorate the tree, helping Senate's cabin. That's why I'm part of the Exchange Club as well, because I care about veterans here in Hanover, in Pennsylvania. It's about serving. And as a building substitute for Bearsville Elementary here in the Southern School District, I have a lot of free time on my hands. And I'd rather use that for, useful purpose rather than nothing else. So,
You said you were born in Hanover?
I was not born in Hanover.
You were not born.
No.
How long have you lived here?
I lived here since 2020.
Okay, thank you.
And I missed it. Did you say what you currently do?
Building substitute. It's on the application there, but it's quite small, and that's why I reprinted it out, because I typed a bit too much. But as it goes sometimes.
Okay. Any other questions or comments that you'd like to make to the council?
No, I mean, the only other comment I would say, if you can think that my, usefulness could be somewhere else, please give a holler. Thank you so much.
Thank you for your interest and your dedication to the town. Chris, you still there with us?
Yeah, I'm here.
Good deal. Okay, Mr. Zartman.
Yes.
Good evening. Oh, check it out. You've got your Hanover colors on.
That was a mistake. I should have red and blue on.
It's okay. Would you care to introduce yourself to the board here and let us know a little about yourself, and then we'll start through the questions, please.
Okay, my name's Jim Zartman. I have been a citizen of the Borough of Hanover for 76 years. I was on Borough Council from 1994 to 1997. Then I got employment with the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, and legal counsel told me I cannot do both. And since they paid more than you guys do.
Doesn't take much.
It's 3 times what it used to be now.
Oh,
We take a pay raise.
so then when I started working for the state, they came to me one day and they said, would you like to be on the zoning hearing board? I said, as an unelected office? No, it's appointed. Okay. So that was 2000. And that's what I've been doing for the last 22 years. And I am available on the first Monday of every month at 6 p.m.
And have been.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, sir. Who'd like to take the next? Carol?
I'll take it.
Okay, good, Karen.
What is your understanding of the role of the zoning hearing board, and why are you interested in serving on the zoning hearing board?
Well, the role of zoning hearing board is to make sure that people who apply for building permits and things of that related to that follow the necessary code restrictions in the Borough of Hanover. And there's also we also handle special exceptions and home occupations. Why am I interested? Well, I don't have anything else to do on Monday nights.
You get the Wheel of Fortune.
That's good.
He's honest, man. You gotta love him, right?
What's he do the other 3 Mondays?
That's very good.
I'm working on that.
That's good.
Comedy
That's-
routine.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
There you go. Who'd like to take on
I
question
will.
3? All
I'll
right,
take
all
that
right.
one.
Thank you.
Okay, Jim, describe your ability and/or your experiences rendering a decision where you disagreed with a rule, a regulation, or had strong support from others that have asked you to disregard the rules and vote with the crowd majority.
You can answer that from the past tense, Jim, because you've been doing it for so long.
Yes.
Surely that's happened,
Easy question.
or not.
You're coaching the candidate now, right? I'm only kidding.
Well, I'm thinking of, we had a case years ago, it was a home occupation. And it was the case where a lady wanted to have childcare in her house, which is basically no problem. So back in those days, they still had public comment. The one neighbor came to the meeting and he complained that they should not grant her the right to have childcare in her home because the children would play outside in the afternoon, and in the afternoon he takes a nap. And I wouldn't say I kind of disagreed with the crowd there. Well, it wasn't a crowd, but if you have a meeting, you can gauge a lot of times whether the issue's a hot issue or not just by counting the number of heads.
Whose head's up and whose head's down?
Excluding the lawyers.
We don't let them talk.
Yeah, well,
Good for me.
not too many times I really disagreed. If there's a crowd there, they're there for a reason.
All right. Item 4, Mr. Hegberg, you want to take that?
Tell us about an experience you had collaborating and/or working with a group.
My. Anything borough related?
It doesn't have to be borough related, it could be anything.
Well, I was president of the Clearview Fair Company for about 3 years.
There you go. I think that the focus of that question is building, collaborating and building consensus.
Well, I guess my experience working on Borough Council prepared me for working on the zoning hearing board.
Amen.
So I guess we have a promotion somewhere, right?
Anyone want to take question 5?
Let
Mr.
me-
Ricard?
Let me add to.
Oh, you got some more to add? Go ahead.
I taught college for 38 years. So if that's not working with the group, I don't know what is.
Point.
Okay, let's go to 5.
Okay.
Jim, I think you've answered this, but if there's, you've named a number of things that you've done and where it's involved multiple skills of yours, and it sounds quite successfully. Is there maybe anything else that we don't know about you that you want to share at this time?
I guess the thing that qualifies me most is the fact that I've been on it for so long. And the other thing about it that makes you a strong candidate from being on the board, I know that there are people that we can talk to. Charlie Miller, zoning, and he's the zoning officer now, and Attorney Schultes and some, and we also have John Seneff. So if we have a legal question or something like that, we can talk to them, or a zoning question, we can talk to them. But it's nice to know that you do have backup.
So you know the network, I guess, so you're integrated into the network of people that are part of the group, all right? Is there any other questions from the council, or Mr. Zartman, any other points that you'd like to make to the council?
Well, one thing I do wanted to bring up, we had that training about a week ago with Kurt Williams, and he went over his whole program, and he got to the end and he talked about public comment. And he mentioned that public comment does not have to be recorded, and you should not record people who make comment, their name and their address. I didn't know that, but he brought it up at the training last week. So we have to be careful anyway, because if you get a hot issue and it's a lot of people there, you'll get 4 people to stand up and do the same thing. So we generally put a couple-minute time limit on most of that stuff to discourage that.
Okay. Any other questions from the council for Mr. Zartman? All right, thank you very much.
Did Riston, that was in here before me,
Yes, sir.
did he point out that there's a mistake?
Yes, he did.
The township, change that to either borough or municipality.
Yes,
Okay.
Thanks.
thank you very much. Okay, so what,
Do you want to?
procedurally, how do we handle this? Do we vote now, or how do we take that and vote at the next meeting, or how's that procedurally work?
They're allowed to be here for the vote. It's the question of timing.
Okay.
We need it for January, correct?
Yeah.
So we're voting tonight?
So it's on the agenda.
So there is a process that we follow, or typically follow here under Robert's rules. It's an open nomination process, so you have 4 candidates. Borough Council can nominate, any of the 4, or there's 2 slots. So we'd take the nomination for 1 slot first. You don't have to have a second to the nomination. All you have to do is nominate. And then we vote in the order in which they were nominated. And the first one who obtains a majority is appointed.
So I would nominate,
Wait till they come back.
they have to wait till they come back?
Yeah,
We should.
Okay, then I do want to thank Councilmember Karen. Cafeteria.
It might be the little break room across the hallway. I'm not sure.
Yeah, like,
That's embarrassing.
He's so proud of himself.
Sure.
Are you ready?
So at this point, council will take nominations. Again, it does not have to be seconded.
Okay. I'd like to nominate Spencer Shirk.
I'll nominate James Zartman.
I'd like to nominate Isaac Riston.
Honestly, I'd like to nominate Matthew Funk, but that doesn't really get us.
It does.
Yes, it does.
Yes, it does.
It does.
So everyone is nominated at this
Yeah.
point. So we will vote in the order in which they were nominated. So the first vote to be called for is for Spencer Shirk. So we'll do a roll call.
Okay. You might want to explain, they can vote yes or no on every candidate, correct?
Yes.
Nomination for Spencer Shirk. Dr. Rupp,
Yes.
Mr. Ricart,
No.
Mr. Greenholt,
Yes.
Mr. Kress,
No.
Mr. Lockard,
Yes.
Mr. Hegberg,
No.
Mrs. Funk,
Yes.
Mr. Rowland,
No.
Mrs. Greenholt.
Yes.
We have 5 in favor of and 4 against. So Mr. Shirk is nominated,
Appointed.
appointed.
Okay. So the next nominee is James Zartman.
Dr. Rupp,
No.
Mr. Ricart,
4.
Mr. Greenholt,
Yes.
Mr. Kress,
Yes.
Mr. Lockard,
Yes.
Mr. Hegberg,
Yes.
Mrs. Funk,
Yes.
Mr. Rowland,
Yes.
Mrs. Greenholt.
Yes.
We have 8 in favor of James Zartman and 1 against. So James Zartman is appointed.
Do we need an alternate solicitor?
Dory, do we need an alternate to
We
this?
could do that if that's all right. Or do we have to put that on the next agenda?
Let's do it. They're here, we're
No,
here.
let's
do it.
Yeah, let's live on the edge.
An alternate
So
piece sometimes going.
do you want to keep the same order? That would be for Isaac Riston next.
I would advocate the same order, yes.
Okay, so, Dory, this is for the appointment for the alternate member of the zoning hearing board.
Okay, for Isaac Riston as alternate, Dr. Rupp,
Yes.
Mr. Ricart,
4.
Mr. Greenholt,
No.
Mr. Kress,
Yes.
Mr. Lockard,
No.
Mr. Hegberg,
Yes.
Mrs. Funk,
No.
Mr. Rowland,
No.
Mrs. Greenholt.
No.
Just gotta call these people today.
Okay, we have 4 in favor of Isaac Riston for alternate and 5 against, so that Mr. Riston is not appointed as alternate. So now we would take nominations for Matthew Funk as alternate. Dr.
guess-
Rupp,
No.
Mr. Ricart,
4.
Mr. Greenholt,
Yes.
Mr. Kress,
Yes.
Mr. Lockard,
Yes.
Mr. Hegberg,
Yes.
Mrs. Funk,
Yes.
Mr. Rowland,
Yes.
Mrs. Greenholt.
No.
We have 7 in favor of appointing Matthew Funk for the zoning hearing board alternate and 2 against, so Matthew Funk is appointed as alternate.
Quite a process. All right, well, congratulations to those, and thank you to everybody for coming out and wanting to participate.
Should tell them about the $10,000 initiation charge.
I thought it was a bonus. I was told, wait,
Do you need to tell them anything? Is she contacted?
what do we need to tell them anything? Sue makes a good point.
We'll write you a letter, each of you, the ones that are appointed and ones that were not, and we'll let you know, we're going to need your contact information so that we can add you to our contact list for the January meeting. So the January meeting will be held, I believe, it'll be the 3rd Monday, I think it's the 16th. And you get a notice approximately 10 days before the meeting.
And they'll have a borough email.
the notices are actually hand-delivered because there's extensive paperwork involved.
Okay. Any other questions on the zoning hearing board? Next is the Shade Tree Commission.
I think everybody's just
Yeah, they're all
reappointed.
approved, they're
Yep.
all unopposed, so number 5.
So,
Well, we're going to need a motion to appoint the others.
Right.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
so we'd make a motion to appoint the Shade Tree, Property Maintenance, Stormwater, and Hanover Rescue and Fire.
So
The
moved.
guy on the rescue's kind of,
So moved.
all right, got a motion, Bill seconded it. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. That was a little easier. Thank you all. Motion carries. Mr. Klauscher, I believe you're up next. I hope this is good.
What's that?
I hope this is good.
So do I. Good evening. So I was asked to walk through the budget real quick with council. I sent some things out. Counselor Lockhart asked me to forward some information on the apparatus, which we'll do at the end.
Chris, are you hearing all this?
Well, I'm still with you.
Okay, good deal. Thank you.
Okay, so for our revenue, we're asking for an 11% increase from the municipalities. And I explained that in the brief memo to council why that is, with budget cuts from the previous years. And essentially, I used the terminology kicking the can down the road. Well, it's kind of caught up with us with some fire hose and some of our EMS units. So to balance our budget, we are going to pull from our general reserves, the capital reserves rather, to help pay for that apparatus. Going through the rest of the revenue, part of our revenue involves aggressively seeking grants, not only the State Fire Commissioner, but FEMA. This year we've gotten a FEMA grant in the amount of $142,000, which is a 10% matching grant that we must match 10% of that, and that is to put sprinklers in the firehouses. Of the 3 firehouses, 1 had sprinkler, the newest one. The other 2 did not fall under, would require sprinklers back in the time frame that they were built. As you look down through our contributions and donations for this year versus what we anticipate next year, this year's contribution involved our volunteer organization stepping up and giving us $53,000 from revenue that they realized from selling some of their apparatus. We also got a $25,000 grant from Sweet Charities. That was earmarked for an ambulance.
What was the volunteer number, I'm sorry?
53,000.
53K? And that was just for this year?
Yeah.
That's pretty great.
Yeah, they sold a rescue truck and a wheelchair van and another vehicle. I can't remember which one it was, but so under our expenses category, right now we're trending pretty well in our budget. Our payroll is about 33,000 under budget, and that's due to staffing issues. The flip side of that is that caused our overtime budget to go about 13,000 over. So one of the things that we do.
3K include the benefit?
No, I'm talking just payroll.
This is just the payroll?
Just payroll.
Okay. Thank you.
One of the things our business administrator did was to start shopping around for insurances. We're going to realize a savings this year on our vehicle building and liability insurance that we don't have projections for yet, but that'll start in January or February. The debt load that the commission carries as far as apparatus is going to start to lighten up in 2024. We will pay off a 2018 Pierce that is currently leased from Penn Township. That gets paid off in June. And then in 2024, we make our final payment on the 2015 ladder truck, which is to the borough. And that's encumbered with a bond, I believe. I mentioned some things in my memo to council about the building, condition of the buildings. We've got normal maintenance that needs to be done for the buildings as far as seal coating driveways and whatnot. But at our Clearview station, the rear driveway has gotten 2 large ruts from the apparatus. We use a rear bay. We have the ability now to drive through, which stops us from having to pull out on George Street and backing in off the street. But again, that station built in 1966 wasn't designed to house apparatus that size or that heavy. So we're looking to do some kind of repair there yet. Capital equipment. You'll see on the budget $42,000 for hose. Please understand that is not a reoccurring expense. That hose, we do our own hose testing, and as it starts to fail, we replace it. Again, we didn't replace anything in the past 2 years, so we're looking at $42,000 worth of hose. That should last us 15 years, as long as somebody doesn't run over it. So, our ambulances, MICUs. So we bought 2 2017s and a 2005 we had rechassied in 2017. So our goal is to rechassis one of those new that was new in 2017, move the rechassis down to reserve, and purchase another unit. Along with that, we hope to bring our MICU back at Clearview Fire Station for those of you that live on the north side of town. And that would be for peak hours, Monday through Friday, maybe 8 to 5, 9 to 6, something along those lines. Does anybody have any questions on the budget per se now, before I talk about this fire truck? And why Councilor Ricart or Councilor Lockard wanted me to send that out.
Everybody okay with where we are? All right.
Okay, what did you say?
Chris, you good?
Yes,
Okay.
I'm good.
Press on, my friend.
Oh, I have a question.
Go ahead.
The request.
Split this.
Jim, is that already accounted for in our budget? The number that they're requesting, is that accounted for in the budget?
We have $825,000 accounted for the 23 budget for the fire commission.
And what was the total number again? Are we spot on?
835. We're 10,000 over what he's got budgeted.
What?
823.
He's at 825, I believe, he said, and we're at 835.
Just asking because we're approving it, next week, and it's been under public review already.
Hurry at the last minute once again, right?
So just
I get it.
curious of seeing it so late into the budget process.
I want to make sure I understand this correctly. I probably don't. Like, does Penn Township pay for part of it? I mean, do we split your costs?
Yes.
Yes,
Don't we?
50% split.
Okay.
That's our half.
Did they approve it yet?
That's my knowledge, yes, last month they
Right.
went through the approval process. Okay, so one of the things I mentioned in the memo, which is our big dollar item, which is a purchase of a fire truck, a fire engine, to replace a 2004 pumper. So NFPA recognizes that a pumper is good for 20 years. Doesn't matter how well we take care of it, how many calls it sees, at 20 years, they derate it as no longer a Class A pumper. So when ISO comes into town, they're looking for Class A pumpers. So not a huge issue. But right now with supply chain and whatnot, we've spoken to some manufacturers. We're looking at 18 to 24 month from the day we order till we actually see it. So, under the commission cannot create debt. We can't go to the bank, get a loan, whatnot. We can lease. So one of the options that our business administrator has chosen is a lease option. He just sent this to me today. So there was 4 options, a 7-year, a 10-year, with either $250,000 down or 10% down, which is about $116,000. And then payments wouldn't start until January of 2024. So
Would that be after the delivery of the vehicle?
the payments, no, it would be before. Assuming that we ordered it, well, assuming we ordered it in 2023, like March-ish,
Close.
yeah. So, no, actually, 20 months, I'm sorry, no, it would be after.
Does everybody understand the ISO rating and what that means and how that affects our personal homeowners' fire insurance costs?
So
Would you put that out there, please?
So the fire commission gets rated on fire protection ability. Of that rating, 50% of it comes from the fire department, 40% of it comes from the water department and their ability to provide water, and the remaining 10% comes from the 911 center. So they rate the community based on our training, our apparatus, our equipment, water department's ability to deliver water and how much water they can deliver for how long, that sort of thing. The rating then is a scale of 1 to 10, actually 1 to 9. No, it is 1 to 10, I'm sorry. Right now, Hanover Area Fire and Rescue has a rating of 3. So Penn Township and Hanover Borough's ISO rating is a 3. Now, what does that mean? Well, it means that our ability to save property is better than anybody that's in a 4, 5, 6, or 7, or 8, 9, 10. 1 being the best. New York City just got this year a rating of 1. And quite honestly, it's a lot of paperwork. That's really what it is. It's down to documentation. So what does that mean? Well, when you purchase a home or a business purchases a building, their insurance looks at our ISO rating to determine what their fire premium should be. Now, how do we quantify that? We really can't. To tell you that, hey, if we are a 3 and we go to a 2, we're going to save you $10,000 on your commercial building insurance. We can't really do that. We just know that that rating, the lower the rating, the better the rates are. So.
What are the other, do you know, the other surrounding municipalities outside of York City? Because York City is also another full-time organization such as ours.
Yeah, I don't have, right at my fingertips, I didn't look it up. I will tell you that we are in Hanover Area Fire and Rescue across the state is, as a number 3, we're in the company of 3,500 other fire departments across the Commonwealth that have a 3. 2s are less, 1s are even less. The bulk of the ratings are 4 and 5s. So we feel pretty proud of that 3 rating, and I've got 2 of my captains that are actively pursuing how we achieve that number 2, that 2 rating. And
Thank you.
then we'll work on getting the number 1 rating. So we will be, and we bring this up to bring it to council that this is a major expense that we're looking at. We're not looking to buy a pumper tonight or even next Wednesday, but we want you to be aware that this expense is coming. So,
What's the total cost of one of that?
Do you hear?
1.1 million.
1.1.
We can save,
I know the big number.
we can save a rousing 79,000 on that 1.1 million if we pay it all up front.
Yep.
So, In 2000,
6%, that's not unimportant.
so in 2018,
Cash flow, baby.
the engine that we spec'd was 670,000. So it's not just affecting cars, grocery stores, it's affecting fire trucks. And unfortunately, a fire truck, you can't go down the street to the automotive shop and buy a fire truck. So, and if we spread out the cost of that fire truck over the course of the 20 years that we're going to use it actively, it's 50,000 a year, 53,000 a year. Kind of puts it in perspective for how much it's costing us per year. So.
Thank you.
Any questions?
Curiosity, how much does it depreciate taking it off the lot? Hey, I just had to bring that up. Okay, I'm sitting here listening to all this.
Oh, yes.
Chief, is it possible to get the budget and these requests to us before in November, as in with Penn Township, or at the same time?
Yeah, I think what happened this year was, just with not having the manager, we missed a payment and it was my fault. I didn't tell Amy. I saw it the last minute, so we ended up with a double payment we never paid last year. So I anticipate that'll self-fix itself.
Okay.
So.
Right. Sorry, Penny, I just had to smile on your face.
You're fine.
Presentation. Do we need a vote?
Except for their budget.
Won't we be approving it, approving the budget next year?
Do we need to vote on, and is it a roll call vote?
Yes, I think the question is whether the fire commission's budget is up for vote tonight.
Correct.
It's on the agenda, fire commission budget, so I think it is a vote.
Okay.
It does not have to be a roll call vote if we can ascertain the yeas and nays by voice vote.
All right, so can we have a motion to approve Chief Cloucher's vote, or
So
Chief
motion.
Cloucher's
I'll say
budget?
motion.
And a second?
Second.
Okay, so we have a vote, or a motion and a second. Those in favor, state aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Any opposed? Okay, motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Okay. What's next? I'm on the wrong page here.
Public Works.
All right, thank you. All right.
Oh, I'm sorry. No.
Oh, finance personnel. All right, so we have, hold on for a second, please. I've got too many papers here. We have the meeting schedule, the fee resolution, the health insurance for non-union employees, and the continued community media of broadcasting the meetings at $700 a month. So,
Can I make a motion to approve the advertisement for the public meetings?
okay, can we get a motion to approve the whole group? No?
No, do them so.
All right, we'll do them one at a time. All right, well, can we, just for organizational sake, can we start with the public meeting schedule?
Barb already made that.
Barb, well, it
Need a
was for
motion
the,
For a second.
okay, for a second, please.
Second.
All right. Those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion carries. Item B is the miscellaneous fee resolution. A motion to approve that.
I motion.
Second?
Second.
All right, any discussion? All right, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. Item C, the compensation and health insurance for the non-union employee resolution. A motion?
Motion.
Thank you. Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Okay, those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. 5D, community media. Barb, that was your motion?
No, I made a motion on the public meeting schedule.
Oh, I apologize. All right, so,
I think that for community media, this is
Okay.
something for you guys to discuss particularly. During COVID, community media came in and began to provide the Zoom abilities for remote access. This is for you guys to discuss whether or not you want to continue having community media here, having the meetings live streamed online, recorded, and then available on the website, and also the Zoom access that they provide. I did check with the solicitor that, you know, the ability to Zoom is not required. Even though we have it now, it is not a requirement. If someone would want to remote in, they can do so via any two-way access, like the phone. Obviously, Zoom works better, but there is another option if someone's not available to be here in person. A council member is not available to be here in person, but it would require public attendance for the public to interact with you during these meetings. We do have their fee as approximately $700 per month for the 2 meetings that they provide. And so that's up for discussion whether you want to continue this service.
If you remove the Zoom, does that affect the fee? No, it's just recording it without the Zoom.
I know. I was trying not to.
It's $50 per meeting to add the Zoom element, so
Yeah, that's-
$100 saved.
Okay.
so do we want to, how do we want to handle this? Any,
I think we're pretty transparent when we do provide that opportunity to the public, and I personally think that we should continue in the same manner in which we have it, so that the public can see what we do and keep us honest. And we are honest, but maybe keep us more honest.
any other?
So not everybody that's logged in is obviously shown up there, is it?
Currently, yeah.
Yeah, but then.
Currently.
once
So there's
it's
only 2
recorded,
people watching this, is what we're saying.
On Zoom, it's also live stream on YouTube, Facebook, and then on channel 12.
So I
Soon to be-
have friends that watch, maybe not regularly, but
They
I
go
think
back.
people,
There might need
Isabel?
to be some changes or modifications, you know, as we improve the technology over at the Bear Center, that might change some things too. But I do know people do go and look online, so it's worth having it.
Are you making a motion?
So I make a motion, we continue doing it.
Second.
I'll second it.
Yeah,
Okay,
Tim did.
makes sense.
Yeah.
so we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? I'll stand opposed. Just because of the cost and alternatives.
Is that for a year's contract?
We
No, it's monthly.
usually go month to month. So it's no
Once a
contract.
month? It goes from month to month, almost like a rental.
Cancel it anytime.
It does. Okay,
Right.
thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Where are we here? Public Works and Facilities, YCEA. The contract to approve the RACP grant. Eric?
So, as you're well aware, the borough was awarded a $5.5 million RACP grant towards your capital buildings project. One of the things that comes along with getting a grant of that size and that complexity is a need to manage it. There's a lot of paperwork.
What, Eric, I'm sorry.
Is the need to manage it. There's a lot of
It's very
paperwork.
complicated, all the paperwork and.
There's a lot of actuarial effort that has to go into it, accounting. You're working directly with the Office of Accounting for the state. And so it becomes more than staff is able to provide. It's not something we're able to keep up with. So what is being asked is to use our relationship with YCEA, which is helped us write the RACP. They also have a lot of experience managing those kinds of grants, making sure that the correct paperwork goes in when it's supposed to go in, that it's complete, and that everything meets the letter of the law so that you don't risk forfeiture of the funds.
And how much is that?
So you have multiple options. So their standard is 1.5% of your grant amount. They also offer an à la carte option. So if you don't need them for all of the services, if there's progress reports or something like that that you want to take on your own, you can certainly do that. You know, I've also had conversations with the architects for the projects. They do some of that work just part and parcel to what they're going to do anyway, so there may be some ability to use what they're already going to do, and then YCA doesn't have to do that.
So it's $5,000 to $7,000.
No, 1.5% of $5.5 million is
$50,000 to $70,000. Yeah.
It's $81,000.
So if they do it all, it's 1.5%.
That is correct.
If we do another portion of it, then that reduces that 1.5%.
They have a whole menu of what they call sort of key items they would do, like progress reports or your business plan or filing your accounting reports. Each one of them is a fractional percent that equals, if you add them all up, they equal to 1.5.
We don't want to do it.
No, I would agree, that was one of the reasons I.
Let them do
Well,
it.
yeah, but is it possible for us to see a sheet on that?
Why?
Being well, I don't know, I'm just curious to know. You know, I'm sitting here voting.
What would you like to see a sheet on? The menu of what the percentages are?
I would.
Absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely, yeah.
All right, and make sure I get that then?
Yeah.
All
All
right,
right,
thank you.
so, with the caveat out there of the detail sheet that Darlene had requested, can we get a motion to move that, to approve that for
I make a motion.
YCEA? And I did have some experience when I looked at the building next door of doing it myself, and it's, by
Eric,
no
what's the
means
term-
anything I wanted to touch.
What's the terms of their service? How long
So
is that?
what
Is
we
that
would
4
need to do
years?
is we would need to prepare and enter into a legal agreement with them. So we
For
would,
how long?
we would specify what the scope is, we would specify the duration of that contract, we would specify our exit clauses if for some reason we needed to get out of it. All those normal things we would do, we would have to negotiate those.
What do you anticipate the life of the
Of the
service to
RACP
be?
grant?
Is it, 4 years?
No less than 2, probably 4 is pretty realistic.
Okay.
2 to,
2 to 4.
2 to 4 years.
Yeah.
Can we vote? They're ready to vote.
And that 1.5% is from start, the entire way to the end.
Oh, it
To
is.
filing the last
the beginning
conclusion.
to
with
So it's
the
not
end.
1.5% per
Okay.
year
No,
per
it's
se, it's
1.5%
of the,
total.
right, the
1.5
capital
total.
that moves through. Okay, so Tim, you made a motion?
Yep.
All right, Chuck has a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you, Chris. Okay. This motion carries. Department of Planning and Engineering, Chapel Ridge. You're up again, Art.
So this project goes back to 2002. This was actually an effort that was led by Bruce Rebert, Ron Orndorff, and Gordon Shue. This is over in Conewago Township. This is at the development that is called Chapel Ridge. And what this is the borough at that time expressed an interest in acquiring the property to develop a high-yield well to be supplemental to your water system.
This is on the corner there.
Correct.
Diagonal from the pumping station.
And efforts were taken to develop that well. There is actually, as you go out there now, there is a casing, a standpipe out there and all that. Those efforts ultimately were not successful. There was some concerns issued with drawing it down. Does it cause sinkholes? There were also some issues raised by the state as far as its proximity to the quarry and its proximity to a residential development that it's at the bottom of a hill, so water was coming down towards it. All of that said, basically what happened in 2002 is you now own a detention basin. that's already passed. That's not on the table tonight to decide whether we want to own one or not. For good, better, worse, we own one. So what we need to do now, though, is that project for the development is being closed out. We are part of that conversation because we own the stormwater basin that provides the stormwater services for that development. In order to close it out, what we have to do as a borough now is we have to execute what's called an O&M agreement, or an operations and maintenance agreement. And what it simply says is, we're going to take care of that basin. We're not going to fill it in. We're not going to start building things inside of it. We're going to take care of that basin. Now, when that basin was originally designed, it was designed as a traditional detention basin. Grass slopes, nice and mowed, all of that. I have argued with DEP to have them consider it to be a naturalized basin, which means basically we're not going to keep that in a mowed condition. We're not going to go out there and mow it every single week in the summer. We're going to actually let that grow up. We're going to keep an eye on it. I don't want invasives and things in there, but it's going to have plants in it. It's going to have woody, shrubby brush. It's going to have some trees and things growing in it, and DEP is willing to accept that. But all the same, we have to enter into this O&M agreement as a due process for the developer to close out what we call the NIPDES permit for that development.
And who's this agreement with? Who's
So
the other
this
party?
agreement's with Conewago Township. They're an MS4 community, much like you. So they are obligated by law to have you enter into an O&M agreement because you own the facility. And so that's what's in front of you tonight is, the solicitor and I have been working on it. The agreement's a very standardized agreement. We don't write these things or create them. They're handed to us by DEP. We've fine-tuned it a little bit, but at the end of the day, it's pretty stock. And so at this time, the ask is that you would approve us entering into an agreement with Conewago Township for an operations and maintenance agreement.
And what do we anticipate the initial cost and the recurring cost to be?
So your initial cost, whatever you have into purchasing the land, I think you bought it for $1.
That's
so
behind
that's
us.
done.
Okay.
Ongoing costs, we'll have to keep an eye on it. Certainly with me on staff versus a third party, I can help keep an eye on making sure that, we look after it. So you're not going to pay somebody else to do the inspections. I can't tell you in my crystal ball whether or not we're going to have to do certain things.
Well, I mean, just give me an order of magnitude thing. I would look, the money we've spent's already spent. That's
Yeah.
interesting, but not really relevant.
I mean, your
There would be the
effort's
today's
less than
cost to
$10,000 a
initiate,
year.
and then the recurring cost each year. What?
Yeah, it's less than $10,000 a year. I mean, we have mowing costs. There is a strip up along the street that we do have to keep mowed in order to keep compliant with their codes and code enforcement because we can't let the grass grow up inside the right-of-way. Beyond that, it's really sort of just keeping an eye on things. Again, because it is naturalized, we don't have to go out there and mow it. I
So it's
don't really have to do
10K a
anything.
year, more or less.
That's probably at the high end.
Well, Scott, that was once all swampland down there, to start with. It was, okay? And it was called the Bottom. And at the bottom, there was a lot of hunters that proceeded through that bottom, okay, for pheasant and things like that. So I understand what you're talking about. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so, do we have a motion? Motion, second?
Who was the
Just
motion?
Who made the motion?
I
Mr.
did.
Hegberg?
Okay, sorry.
Mr. Kress made the second?
Question first. So this is, I heard you say we can't get out of ownership now.
Correct.
I didn't.
I mean, unless you can find a buyer who's interested in a
It is,
basin.
it is all net negative for us from here on. Maybe we should have done this earlier, no
Yeah.
fault intended.
Yeah.
Going along with what we need to do, I think we should be pursuing avenues by which we can sell it to the Indians or whoever.
Perhaps
Commonwealth
donate
for
it
$1.
to the township as a park or something.
Yeah, and I'm guessing
Good
their
idea.
answer is not, heck yeah. Okay.
They actually
buyers
own-
of stormwater
Having
basins.
represented Conewago, they own a couple basins that they, in hindsight, I believe, wish they didn't own, so I don't think they'll add to
So
that.
Eric, you're saying this basin is serving a development? Right.
It is serving a residential development, correct.
And we put it in for that development?
The developer put it in for the
On the land
development.
that we owned.
Yeah.
For the purpose of
All
the
you
well.
did was acquire the property once the basin was done.
But the developer put the basin on there, but it's not the developer's basin.
That's a good point, Chuck.
It's not the
because-
developer's basin because you took ownership of the lot in exchange for development of what was envisioned at that time to be a high-yield well, and that didn't pan out.
You want to know the rest of the irony?
No, I don't.
DEP then said because it's in a basin, no way and begins with an H will you ever be allowed to use that as a,
Right.
so it was
Oh.
it was a few poor decisions made 20 years ago.
But
Yeah.
it's, the recurring pain is $10,000 a year-ish,
Until maybe we get out of it, yeah.
until we can donate it to somebody.
Yes.
Okay,
The Scott Rowland Foundation.
I was just gonna say the same thing.
great.
Home for Wayward Boys.
So we just have to vote.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
What are you gonna do?
Chris?
He said,
No, I'm good with it. I mean, we don't really have any choice.
That's
Right.
true.
Okay. That brings us to public safety, number 8. Oh, great, we're back to the rental registration.
So this item is on your agenda today, based on discussion from last month. The conclusion of that discussion was that there was a desire for a rental registration and inspection workshop to be formed. So I don't know what you want to call it, if you want to call it that, or an IPMC landlord workshop,
No.
whatever you want to call it. This workshop, my only request is that there is not staff participation in this until council has a clear direction. We have spent a lot of time over the last 2 years working through the rental registration program, developing an ordinance, putting the inspections in, taking the inspections out, and following what we believe to be council's direction. And then you decided not to move forward with it, which is your prerogative. However, we have, as you know, we have a lot of really big projects going on in the borough, and staff is very busy in those projects. And so this workshop, I'm proposing and hoping that you agree that if you do move forward with forming it, that it is a council and public participation workshop.
Can I make a suggestion?
What?
Can I make a suggestion of just some points that are out there? If we have a, I don't know, blue ribbon team, whatever we want to call it, I think we need to define the problem. I think we need to define what we consider success or achievement of said problem. Develop measurements of the said success or achievement, and from those plot a path forward.
So essentially, I think it should be a work group, not a workshop. Workshops are too free flow, not shaped with a formation of what you're trying to accomplish.
Okay.
I think similar to the library work group is how it should be established with a charter of what it's going to be, and there will be a people appointed by the council president on how it should operate, on a timeline, similar to the library work group.
Will we get reports then from this commission? We never got reports from the library
Absolutely.
committee.
You
we
will
get
be
reports
getting from
this
the
committee?
library.
We're supposed to get one every 3 months. We never got any.
It was only a
That's 'cause
6
nothing
month.
happened.
What?
Huh?
Oh, I didn't know that.
There's no report.
That's because nothing happened until basically 2 weeks ago.
Right.
That's
You're
it?
talking about the library?
Correct.
All right, well, let's stay on this.
Right.
Yeah.
That's when it squashed.
But Barb, you can put those, you can specify that in the direction, objective of it. But I think it needs to be more formalized than a work group or workshop.
So why don't we kick it around now and then come back with a more formalized, say,
Next
mission
week.
statement?
Yeah.
That, then using the catchphrase group rather than workshop, and then begin to build it with assuring staff that we're not going to.
And it has
Bring them in.
deliverables, and it has a death date or an end date.
Recommendations, I think, would, deliverable recommendations back to council to then proceed with, public involvement, all the things we wanted to have. Yeah,
Because the library work group is open to the public,
correct.
so it's not,
Anybody is permitted to attend.
So would this
Yep.
be on the public meeting schedule, I guess, or, well, we'll just
Probably should be.
figure that out as you get it all
Has to
set
be
up.
public.
Yeah,
Have to be
yeah,
public.
I think we gotta, yeah.
Would that be public?
Yeah, because there's.
Oh, yeah, yeah, it's all public.
So we come back to the meeting a week from today with
With a
everybody's, have some ideas, and then we
Sounds
would
good.
try to integrate those together.
So you want a discussion of Hanover Borough Council on the agenda over this?
I think that's
Sounds good.
agreeable.
I'm of a more personal opinion, we should give it more time than that maybe
Right.
it should come back to finance in January, February.
Okay, so come back to this
kick around a
meeting
little
at
bit
the
and
next,
Formalize at council, yeah. I mean, you know, we
I would
keep
agree with that.
council more business-like, so.
Is everybody okay with that? So we have a motion to define perhaps the things, refine the things that I mentioned there,
We ought to-
and review it again at the next workshop. Is that what this is called?
Yes.
Okay.
Because when we did the work group for the library, we just made a motion to create a work group, and then it
Right.
was formed.
Yeah.
And then we voted on that,
That's
and
what we do.
so we did it.
All right, so if everybody would put their thoughts together and email them to Amy prior to the next meeting, a month from the next work group or workshop or whatever this is called meeting, that would be great. We have a motion and a second. Those in favor?
Who seconded it?
What she need?
Tim, did you second that?
Yes.
Okay.
Bill's motion.
Bill's motion, Tim's
To-
second.
Form the work group. Okay.
Correct. And we meet again a month from now at the next meeting. So those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Thank you, Chris. All right. Next is item B, hiring of the 3 police officers, vote to approve. Chad's not here, so, oh, he is here, so we don't have to do it. Okay.
I think it's straightforward.
Yeah, that's
A
pretty.
motion to approve?
So
So-
approved.
Or is there any,
Yeah,
Second.
motion.
so motion, we have a second.
Motion.
Those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
Okay. It takes care of that.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Okay, so this next item is a new item for the agenda, so there's, so there may be some growing pains here. But what I'd like to do is have the chairs from each committee give a brief summary about what is happening in each committee. There's been some discussion about how things are happening in committee, and it's not getting reported back. So if everybody can kind of, if you chair a committee, report what briefly is happening in that committee. And if the answer is nothing right now, then the answer is nothing right now. And, but, you know, if we could practice getting to do this on monthly stuff.
Do we have
Okay.
permission for that to be put into play, or is it just part of what we should have been doing all along?
Well, it's not something that you have to do, and if it's something that you'd rather not do, then obviously this is your meeting. But this is something I thought would help
Yeah.
communicate what's happening
I like that idea.
in committees. So Barb, can I pick on you first?
Basically, we're just taking a look at policies that come before us and we review them and remind you of your responsibilities as part of it. That's it.
Okay. So Public Works and Facilities Chair, Tim?
That's me. Basically, we've been working on with Eric, the drawings for the new, supposedly gonna be new, public safety / administration for the borough, and also moving Public Works out to the, old water treatment plant. That's basically the biggest things we've been talking about. A few other odds and ends that AJ needed.
Are you allowed to ask questions on these different things while they're making a report if you have a question?
If
Or is
you-
that later?
I think in
If
the
you want
future,
to, but
when
I
we get it a
think-
little more refined,
Yeah,
that might be
Just a report.
appropriate. We kind of,
Just a report.
It's just a
Yeah.
report. Obviously, they don't have like details in front of them. So I think that if you
Okay.
have questions, maybe,
Would there be a place to place it in the meeting if you have questions from the committees making the report?
Or just
maybe
email
just
the
follow
chair
up
and ask.
Just
the
email.
chair with an
they're
email to the
prepared
chair
for it.
asking.
All right,
Then we would
sounds
know.
good. Yeah.
Economic Development, well, Enhancement
Yeah,
Committee.
yep. So basically, we are working on selecting a engineering firm for the streetscape. That should be next month in January. We've got 2 of them that we're looking at, and we'll be selecting the one. We're going through the parking demand study that was completed. We will be discussing the parking issue and some of the changes based on that study. I think Eric will be giving a presentation on parking demand February. We have the Market House study that's kicking off. Both the architectural and operational use is being done. There's something else. I think that might be it for now. Oh, and then we're going to be appointing 3 citizens to it, to the committee, which is the first one to have citizen representation.
Water and sewer?
Water and sewer really hasn't met this quarter, so there's nothing hot and pressing, but just as a general statement, it continues to monitor the dam improvements as well as all water infrastructure, including filtration, transmission, and distribution. I believe on our radar, we're still involved with the water meter replacement schedule that has also come to council. And we have been looking at various upgrades throughout our system.
Can I interject on the water and sewer?
Please.
That we spoke about it. We have an opportunity to submit in, I think,
money.
20th of January, is it? For what's called the Susquehanna River Basin Commission Consumptive Use Grant. Consultant is putting the information together, and it will be for Shepherd Myers Reservoir as it relates to sediment loads going into the reservoir, asking for funding to study the minimization of it. So they're putting it together. There'll be a letter that'll have to be signed off or approved by the council. But just putting it before, because we have very limited time. So we're going to try to make a submittal on that.
And public safety, Chris, are you available to comment on that?
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, basically, we had been working on a number of roads where there were parking issues. We made a few changes here and there. Under the direction was brought to us that some parking issues, mainly in the Cherry Tree development, I think is where it actually was. And it looks like we didn't have a meeting in December, but it looks like going forward in January, we're probably going to be involved in the rental discussion. I believe that's one of the things that's probably would make sense to have safety committee involvement in. So going forward, I see that as one of our main topics. And other than that, I think at this point we did work on a noise ordinance a few months ago. I think things have been going better with that. We had some issues. I think we've gotten them resolved, I hope. So that's pretty much it for the safety committee.
Okay, thank you. That's all.
Okay. Number 10, management reports. Good there? None? Any correspondence and information? Amy? No? All right. Then that brings us to the additional public comment section. Mr. Becker?
If I could just ask the council to reconsider your tentative decision not to include Mr. Miller, the code enforcement officer, in this work group. If he's busy, I understand. And maybe this needs to be deferred until he has more time, maybe the spring, maybe the summer. But if we're going to move forward, I'm submitting to you that I think a big part of the problem is that there are council members who are advocating this new ordinance that don't understand how the existing ordinance is being enforced. I'm saying that. Now, if this turns out and you can show that I'm incorrect in my understanding, that's fine. I believe that to be the case after talking with Mr. Miller. I'm asking you to reconsider moving forward unless he's part of this process. If you exclude the only person that can explain how he's enforcing the ordinance, the success that he's having doing it, what perhaps he needs to do a better job, if there is a way to do a better job. I think he's doing a great job. Then you're setting this work group up for failure before it begins. I don't think his voice can be silenced.
I think
So-
the way some work groups work, that they can call people in to testify or help. I'm sure when the committee finds that it needs some help from people who work in the borough, they'd be happy to help us.
If council, I understand a council person Rupp's position on this, but I respectfully disagree, and I know many of the others, if not most of the others, disagree with her. He's the only one that can explain it, needs to be there, please reconsider.
Attorney Becker, Amy.
It's really nice.
We do need someone with both the knowledge and the authority to help this workshop. What I would suggest is that we talk to Chris and get his input. Would that be fair enough? Could we do that?
I'm concerned anytime a staff is involved that it becomes an assignment, becomes our.
No, I don't want the
project.
assignment.
That's what, I mean.
Not as such. I want to know.
If he's not assigned to the work group and is just called in when there's questions that need answered, I don't.
Okay, if we have, Mr. Becker, or Attorney Becker, if we have him, that we can ask him questions, such as any citizen of this town can do, when we have, I would like him to be there, but I
Okay,
have
Darlene,
I have to respect the position of Amy and the borough staff.
Let me suggest this. Once this Blue Ribbon Group gets together, defines the problem and defines the metrics for solution, how do we know if we're getting better? Then we can draw Chris into that.
Okay.
But until that we all agree on what we're doing.
As long as we get the
But-
workshop through,
Is
I'm
that-
fine.
I think it should
Amy,
be,
would you
it should be
concur
at the
with-
discretion of the borough manager. Chris
I-
works for the borough
well,
manager.
Right now, I'm looking at Amy because Margie can't be here,
That's
okay?
why I disagree with that. I think that he has to be involved, because otherwise you're going to rely on what I'm telling you he told me about the success of the program. Is that the way this workshop is going to work? I'm going to show up and say, well, this is what Mr. Miller told me. He inspects all the code violations within 24 to 48 hours. He gets every single one. To my knowledge, there's no one that's upset, no one that hasn't had their code violation inspected or dealt with. Is that the way the work group is going to work? Everybody's going to sit and listen? That doesn't make sense to me. I mean, I'm willing to say that because he told me that, but I think that's the tip of the iceberg as far as what needs to be discussed. I think he needs to get into a level of detail that I can't help you with about what he does, how he does it, whether it works, because I think he's doing a great job. But if all this work group is going to do is sit and listen to me say the same basic things over and over again, I don't think we're going to convince each other of anything.
I agree.
I think we need to get somebody that has
I
more
agree.
information. With all due respect to the borough manager, I understand he's busy, and I'm not suggesting he's not. I'm telling you, I think he does a great job. I was very impressed. It's not about that. It's about, if we're going to take this to the next level, I think we need him to be there and to dance around that issue and say, well, maybe we'll have him, maybe we won't. Let it up to somebody else. We're wasting time. We're wasting each other's time because I'm going to show up and say the same things. You're not going to convince me that he can't do this because I believe he can. We're not going to convince each other. There's no meaningful exchange of anything. So
Correct.
if this is
No.
going to work, he's got to be
No.
part of it.
Attorney Becker, you are absolutely correct, and I think that Scott is also correct in that we have to, first of all, pass the workshop. We have to pass the workshop, we have to agree to it, and then we are going to tackle all of these questions. This is very important, that when we set this workshop up, it is done for the betterment of the town, both for landlords and tenants, and for those also who own private homes and have been affected by what they fear is the de-evaluation of their homes. And then maybe there is input, but, you know, it's gone so long that we have not had input from the town that we had on our last meeting. And now we have you back. And I'm glad to have you here tonight. So, Mr. Attorney Becker, your spokesperson right now, we will pass this, and as soon as we pass the workshop, then we can become involved in all of these issues. But we can't do anything until we all agree that the workshop is going to
Okay,
exist.
okay, so let's bring this back again to the next meeting, and we can discuss it a little more after we all have refined our opinions, because we need to be able to come out with actionable something here
Right,
and
I don't wanna-
measurable something.
Right, we
That
don't
I
wanna
think
shove
this, or
aside.
you think that is not getting us anywhere.
So this will not be brought up at the council meeting next month, or next week. It'll go until January
Correct.
Finance Committee meeting for rediscussion. Is that?
How do you feel about that?
Well, I defer to the council. I mean, you guys are the boss.
It will not be on the printed agenda.
I'm listening.
It will not be printed on the
Attorney
agenda, is what you can take away.
We think you're doing a great job. There's no issue. I mean,
Doesn't feel
I defer completely to your judgment on this. I'm just
Doesn't feel
suggesting
like
I
that.
have some answering to do to people tomorrow and Friday on short notice. So I just want to make sure I understand leaving that
Exactly.
this will not be up for council discussion next week.
No,
It's
we'll
gonna
not be up for
Finance
discussion
Committee
next week.
next month.
We agree on that.
We agree?
And
Okay.
we'll bring it back at the next one of these meetings a month from now to better refine what we're doing. This is yours, I believe.
Hi, everyone. My name is Isaac Riston, 227 Locust Street. The timer is going for my public comment for 2 minutes as it's agreed upon. And so one thing I want to mention is that for a timeline, definitely needs to be kept in under a year. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because my Councilwoman Funk brought this up in October meeting about how if we're waiting until 2024, 2025, this keeps on going. And I bring you back to the comprehensive plan of 2014, 2015 that identified this as a problem already, and you guys have been working on this. This is not the first ordinance that was presented to the Borough Council. It was the first ordinance that failed the Borough Council. I don't want to see another workshop start from scratch. I think you have a 12-page document that is very thorough and comparable to York City in itself. And York does there's a lot of inspections and breaks it down based on different rental inspections as well. And so what I'm asking you to do is when you develop this workshop, make sure you're not starting from scratch, but build on what you've already done. Build on the work the staff has already done as well, because they've been working on this. You heard it first, right? And so just trying to throw that all away and start from scratch, I think, is a detriment. Additionally, as I said, as I read through the zoning ordinance, I imagine you're all aware that we have an inspection already that the borough is going to be conducting on short-term rental properties every single year. So as a renter myself and seeing that short-term rental inspections are going to be done next year, right? I want to make sure that it's going to all rental properties at the very least. That should be a minimum. So again, I think workshop, fine. That's what the borough decides, But please don't start from scratch. Please make a timeline that is having deliverables in a year. So hopefully by next year, this can be decided upon, if not sooner. With that said, I have about 14 seconds left. Thank you so much. Have a great night.
I'm not aware of any short-term rental inspection that was passed.
Here is the zoning ordinance.
I'm sorry, I'm just.
You can have the zoning ordinance. You can have it right here and look it up yourself.
Mr. Chairman.
Mr.
Chairman. This is.
Okay,
During the meeting.
so I'd like to call motion for adjournment.
No, I have something.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Sue Ann.
I was waiting for everyone else to finish. So seeing that tonight we voted to pass on the miscellaneous fee resolution, and inside that resolution, I saw that it was changed for the parking meters to be a quarter and 15-minute increments. So I want to know, how do we move it forward? Do we have to do anything at this point to get AJ's guys out there to start making the corrections on the meters? Like, how we do this?
You pass the resolution, so the action can begin.
Awesome.
It will begin.
So AJ, how long will it take you? I can-
So the fee resolution is for 2023, fee resolution.
Right.
So we'll give you a week.
The process just comes down to the timing of new instruction stickers and then the programming, which is one at a time, which I believe last time took us approximately 3 weeks. The stickers were the issue, which took over a month. So
Is there
not
any
very
change on
long.
that
I'd say
stickers?
by February, pending weather issues, should be fine.
Is there any change on the stickers?
Yes.
Okay.
The stickers indicate a dollar minimum, so we have to
I
get a
see.
new sticker to put over the old sticker.
So
Which they
basically
don't read
then,
anyway.
to clarify, the work can begin January, 3rd would be that Monday.
As soon as they have the time and supplies.
Right.
Yep.
Okay, very good.
Thank you.
Good, now I can tell people.
I want to say thank you very much for that. I know some downtown businesses that needed that, and they were hurting a lot, and I really appreciate your speed
I think the
and
mayor-
turnover on that.
The mayor deserves the credit for leading that charge.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Excellent job. Also, I want to thank you very much for the opportunity
still get
to have this work group with all parties that are involved. And I do agree that we need to get people, most people that are most invested in and know this 12-page document or any documentation that our staff has done and is knowledgeable to get that work group. Okay?
Thank you.
All right, so we have a motion to adjourn and a second?
So motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you all very much. Merry Christmas.
I have some things to hand out for council.